Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Brownfield Weekly Livestock Update with University of Missouri economist Scott Brown. Scott, hello.
Good afternoon, Tom.
Further, I do need to tell everyone that we had some good news. I'm subbing for Megan, and I will be while Megan is on maternity leave. And Megan is no longer pregnant. She's had twin boys, so we're awfully happy about that. Of the boys, and they seem to be doing well. And you have seen the pictures as well, and so that's good news for us. So congratulations to Megan and Brian on two beautiful twin boys.
And I add my congratulations to that as well, Tom.
Yes. Let's talk about first the weather, because it has been so blasted cold in the upper Midwest. What kind of effect does that have on movement and on demand as well?
Yeah, so I think we can talk about all kinds of effects as we talk about just what's been bitter cold in a large part of the United States, really. On the supply side of the equation first, we often talk about it's hard to be in a situation where cattle weights or cattle can grow very quickly when they're out there in that cold weather. So we're going to probably see a little drag on weights here in the near term as a result of the cold weather. We just tend to see a little less movement of livestock generally when it's cold. It's just a little harder to get everything done. So I think in many cases that maybe slowed the supply side of the cattle and pork industries down just a little bit. But at the same time, when it's 0 degrees, not many of us care to get out there just any more than we have to. So I also think it hurts on the consumption side of the equation as well, as we all might eat out just a little less and be happier to stay home and near the fireplace a little more often when we have 0 and below 0 weather in many parts of the country.
I happen to be in Springfield, Missouri at the annual Heart of America Dairy Expo that's going on down here. And I just finished a pork chop lunch, so we have to talk about the hog market. Current hog market is stronger this week.
That's right, Tom. We gained about $2 this week in terms of cash hog prices. When we look at that current lean hog futures, we were pretty flat to maybe down just a little bit this week. On the wholesale side of the equation, the pork cutout value was actually about $1.60 higher this week. So perhaps that pork chop you consumed helped on that front. But beyond, we saw ribs and hams and bellies all up this week. And when we look at that overall pork cutout value, it's still sitting there about 1.6% higher than where we were a year ago at this time.
In the cattle market, also just a little bit of a jump there.
Absolutely. It's good to see some positives on both markets this week. Cash fed cattle up about 50 cents this week, while when we look at feeder cattle, up 6 to 12. Demand seemed to be pretty strong this week for feeder cattle. So some good news for our cow-calf side of the industry. When we look at that futures side, both futures markets for feeder cattle, current feeder cattle futures up $3. That current fed cattle futures up $4.50. A good week on the futures side. On the choice beef cutout value, we're actually down nearly $3.50 this week. But I still remind us, even on that front, that choice beef cutout value is still over 7% above where it was a year ago. So a good start to the year in terms of where those wholesale values have been.
Yeah, so demand seems to be building some. And maybe you can link this to consumer sentiment, but that is actually down in the last report.
It is down. When we look at that overall index of consumer sentiment that we got out today, we were down 1.6% in January data relative to a month ago, and that's 4% lower than where we were a year ago at this time. Now, I just remind us we came off some pretty lofty levels when you look back at 2017 in terms of consumer sentiment. But I guess there's a little bit of bright spot in my mind when you look at the index of those expectations. So that the other one of the two components, it was up actually slightly relative to a month ago. I think consumers are looking ahead here into 2018 and seeing some positive signs, perhaps some more money in their pocket as they think about recently passed tax reform legislation being helpful. Now, flip side of that is, we've got the highest crude oil prices that we've had for several months. We'll have to watch how that plays in terms of the cutback potentially in food expenditures if gasoline and crude oil prices stay higher as we go through this year.
Absolutely, and probably it's not a surprise to see gas and crude oil prices up with the temperature going down as much as it did for several days in a row. But now, again, let's talk about some of the demand picture for retail beef and pork prices. That's better.
Yeah, absolutely. When you look at what we got out in terms of retail meat prices, we'll take beef here to begin with. In December of 2017, we were 18 cents above December of 2016. You know, that's the largest year-over-year increase since July of 2015. We can even look on the pork side of this equation, and pork retail prices came in at $3.74 for December of 2017. That was 16 cents above a year ago. On the pork side, that's 5 consecutive months in a row where the year-over-year increase was 14 cents or more. So for me, it reminds me, you know, I think producers got a little Christmas present here at the end of 2017 with what was very strong demand despite growing supplies. So it's nice to see that help to producers through those higher prices with that strong demand, and we sure hope that continues. You know, as we go into 2018, the other side of that picture is when we look at the farmer's share of retail meat price, we've actually been fairly steady, especially when you look back to where we were in 2014 and 2015, where we lost a lot of share. So it's good to see that farmer's share being much more constant as we look back at where we were in 2017.
If we take a brief look at the week ahead, we've been focusing on demand this week, but next week we're going to have to talk about supply some because of the reports coming out from the government.
Absolutely. We got a lot of reports that I think really help us on the supply side. You know, next Tuesday we'll get a cold storage report, gives us a little bit of indication of whether we got any beef or pork products backing up in freezers. And maybe more important, I want to see what those chicken numbers look like again, because we've been building chicken stocks here for a period of time. We'll get livestock slaughter on Thursday, and then we get another round of cattle on feed this Friday. So really starting to, I think, give us a little better indication of where cattle markets might be going, especially in the feed yard. And I remind our readers, we're not that far away from getting that annual cattle inventory report here at the end of January. So some pretty critical reports coming out as we look here over the next week and a half.
Do you have any feelings on what's going to be on the expectations for those reports, especially cattle on feed?
Yeah, so I think we're going to end up being higher next week in terms of what we're going to see out of expectations. It shouldn't surprise us, I guess, at this point. I hope we moderate a little bit the growth in placements that we've seen. I think we pulled a lot of calves forward when we look back at that December cattle on feed number that was so high in terms of placements. So I think it'll be a much smaller increase that we're going to see out of expectations. And I will even venture a little guess on cattle inventory that we're going to show beef cows in the United States up for January 1 of 2018. So we're going to keep talking about growing supplies of cattle and beef for a number of months ahead, Tom.
Very good. Anything to add to this?
I think we've covered the major topics for this week.
Very good. Well, with that, we're going to talk in a week. And again, I'll be subbing for Megan here in the next few weeks. Megan will be back in March to take over, to take back this program. And until then, it'll be Scott and myself doing this. I know next week I'll be going to be covering the National Cattlemen's Beef Association meeting the week after that. So we'll be talking from Phoenix at that particular time. And you can sign up for this. You can go to brownfieldagnews.com and be sure that you get the notice and the link to this particular broadcast. Scott Brown, thank you so much, and we'll talk again in a week.
Thank you, Tom.
That's going to do it for this week. Thank you for joining us. I'm Tom Stever with the Brownfield Weekly Livestock Market Update.